much, much younger bird, and you can really see the difference in his head color and his tail. I'm assuming, I guess, that a lot of you folks are familiar with the color change that a bald eagle goes through. So a juvenile bald eagle starts out with his first set of feathers that are completely brown from head to tail. They have white kind of on their belly and under their wings, but their heads and their tails are completely dark brown. And their beak is actually black, and their eyes are dark, dark brown. As they mature, there's just not enough room up here for all these big personalities. So they start out with, again, the brown head, the brown tail. As they get into their third year, they will start to get more color. And then as they get into their fourth and fifth years, they really develop a fully white head, a fully white tail. They lose all the white that was on their underbelly, and they are then considered an adult. And so Einstein, again, it's right in the middle of that process. It's very obvious that his head is kind of dirty looking. His tail, he still has one feather that's almost completely brown. And then the rest of those are starting to lighten up.
Why did flapping the wings, Dad?
Well, Einstein here in particular is very excited and happy that Evan has brought him out today. So Einstein has a very different story, whereas Wanagi was injured, and had a very challenging childhood, chickhood. Einstein was actually, we suspect, ended up in captivity, and we're not sure how that happened because that was not something that we dealt with. But we suspect that he was brought into captivity as a young bird and then actually raised improperly. And so the big challenge working with a young raptor of any kind, be it an eagle, a falcon, a hawk, or an owl, is that when they are very, very young, they are very impressionable, and they actually are not born with a very good sense of who they are, and they have to learn most of that from their parents. And so young birds, when they're brought into most rehab centers, are kept isolated from human contact. When we get in birds to Sardis that are in that age, we are not allowed to talk around them. We do not let them see us as a whole. If we have to interact with them personally, we disguise ourselves with sheets and other contraptions so that we don't look like a person. And if we have to hand feed them, that is done with either forceps or petting so that they understand that they are not a person. The only interaction that we want to have with them and that they know that we are people is something that they would not want to repeat.
Yeah.
So if we have to check their health, we might do that, letting them see us, because that's going to be a circumstance that they're not going to be comfortable with. And so that will help instill in them the proper fear and respect of people that they need to have to survive in the wild. The only interaction that's positive that we want to have with them is something that they don't understand where that's coming from. Einstein, unfortunately, did not get that. And so Einstein is what we call a human imprint. He does not understand that he is a wild bird. He thinks that he's human, and he is particularly bonded with Evan here. And so Evan is his wife. And Einstein just doesn't get it. He does not understand what it is to be wild. He doesn't know how to take care of himself. And some people will get the impression that an imprinted bird would be great. You know, it thinks it's a person, it's going to hang out with me, you know, it's going to make a great pet. And that is really the wrong impression. Imprinted birds have the potential to be very dangerous because not only are they not afraid of you, and what that means is that they're not afraid to show you who's boss. If they're having a bad day or if they think that they are dominant to you, they're not afraid to treat you as they would another eagle. And that can be very dangerous because these birds have razor sharp beaks and they have very sharp claws. And imprinted birds,
birdie.
it's not something you can reverse. It's not something that you can teach them how to be a wild animal again. And so in a case like Einstein, you know, this is a 4-year-old bird. He came to us when he was less than a year old, and he will never be able to return to the wild. That is the only thing that's wrong with him. It's all in his head. Physically, he's perfect. He knows how to fly. He has all of his toes. He has perfect eyesight. There's nothing else wrong with this bird other than that he was raised incorrectly. And the greatest shame in this is that this is something that should not happen today in captivity. We know better than that how to raise these birds, and this should not have happened. And unfortunately, he pays the consequences. He is stuck with never being wild his entire life. In the wild, a bald eagle can live, or a golden eagle, the answer that I haven't mentioned. Eagles in the wild can live into their late 20s and early 30s. In captivity, these guys can live up to their 50s and their 60s. And that is a long, long time to never be able to be free. And so Einstein really is what we would consider kind of a worst case scenario. And now, to shift the spotlight a bit here, this is wind dancer. Wind dancer is a golden eagle. And so these are birds that we don't see very often here in western Washington. These guys are contrast to the bald eagles that are primarily going to be going after fish and waterfowl and are very much tied to riparian and wetland habitats, coastal areas. Golden eagles are going to be preying primarily on small animals, so marmots, ground squirrels, rabbits, and hares make up the bulk of their diet. And because these guys need to get down to the ground, they do have a very enormous wingspan. They can have a wingspan of anywhere from 6 to